Greetings, YouTube. Happy Saturday. You know, it's been less than 24 hours since this message on screen, the Treasury donation lockout message from the game team, hit everybody's in-game inbox. And I did a, relatively short video last night where I talked about my initial responses to the decision. I wasn't really prepared for what I woke up to this morning, because I received just a spectrum of reactions from different Alliance members across the game. Some positive, some very negative. And so I did something this morning where I took my trusty handy-dandy notepad, and so if you hear any papers ruffling in the background near my microphone, it's because I've written down the pros and cons that have been sent to me, by different Alliance members across the game. And it really has stunned me to see the divide, but at the same time it makes sense based off of different responses. Of course, a lot of people probably read this and thought, well, this doesn't really apply to me because my Alliance doesn't run map 7, so what's the big deal? Well, some people have reached out to me who initially read that and now have a different response, and so I'll talk about that with the cons. But let's start with the pros, because we want to be balanced as much as possible on this channel. So the pros, of course, they hopefully discourage the hackers to dump their resources, usually paid, into an Alliance from now on because of that 8-day ban period, as you can see highlighted in yellow on that first paragraph of the screen. So this will cause those accounts to basically, even if they do dump those resources, they will have to stay with that Alliance for 8 days before they're allowed to do it. So they're going to have to participate or they can't make the transaction. I have seen, because, for every decision, there's always a workaround, it seems, and I've seen people who've said, Prof, I have access and my Alliance has access to so many different retired accounts that have millions of battle chips and gold and loyalty, and so, we'll just kind of juggle both those accounts and dump it when needed. Now, of course, there is a huge risk in that, particularly if you choose to do that in Alliance War, you could be flagged for piloting because you're using multiple accounts in the same Alliance, and that could cost your whole Alliance far more than just, some Treasury donation hit because you are missing a member. So I would be very weary of anybody that tries that approach, strictly because we have seen that the piloting software does usually try to detect when people do that. Maybe there's a work around that. I'm kind of thankful I don't know that for the sake of my ignorance, but that is certainly a suggestion by some. In theory, too, this lowers the costs of maps for everyone because they simply can't continue to expect the unreasonable costs. But here's the deal. The loyalty costs have not gone down, and even the battle chip costs have not gone down that much. So this really is the first step, but not the final step, to lowering costs for map 7 particularly. And keep in mind, there are a lot of Alliances out there who are trying to run map 7 and still struggle because some of those nodes are still straight BS, and the game is bugged, right? The game is bugged, and there are so many instances of people send me screenshots of fights where they just get straight screwed. There's even a sort of new-ish issue, at least new to me, that demands its own separate video, and I just honestly haven't had the time to make it, where people in the middle of the fight, the game just crashes, like it used to last summer. And when you restart it, of course, you've lost half your health, and you have to restart that Alliance Quest fight, or even worse, Alliance War fight, where you have to do the same thing, only you got a defender kill registered for your Alliance, unfortunately. So those may not sound like huge pros, but they're more pros than the cons that I've got written down, which I want to jump into now. First and foremost, let's switch gears and talk about the arena, because the arena, of course, is the quickest and most efficient way, even though a lot of times it is still not efficient, to gain battle chips. But the average user, whether it be at the top or especially if you're somebody that has a family, maybe you're married, you've got a couple kids, got a full-time job, you can't afford to have the arena grinding suck your soul away with time you don't have. So your battle chip situation is fairly dire. This is tempting people who have never been tempted by the arena dark side before to explore arena bots. And those people, hopefully, will not continue to be tempted by the dark side. But here's the deal. Kabam has shown a tendency to only boot arena botters once every couple months. And even for those who have been booted, so many people only get temporary bans. So when they come back to the game, if they know they're not going to even have a chance for another temporary ban for a few months, they're just going to go right back to running those bots. So this actually could drive up and artificially inflate arena scores if the bots are successful at being run, and the arenas are already going up, especially the 5-star featured arena. We saw a record amount of scores to get, especially the first round of Namor. But more than that, and I think it's a point that we haven't talked about as much in the community, the top 10% of the 5-star featured continues to rise because of bots. And I think the last time we saw a reward given out, it was over 13 million, which I think was only the second time that's ever happened, and who knows, it might go up even more with the pressure for donations for battle chips. So the arena scores could be inflated, and that is only hurting the people who grind fairly. This is also the case that the reason why I brought up at the beginning that some people are reaching out to me and have changed their tune in less than a day. It is very difficult with so many people quitting Alliance War, and also just the game in general. It's very difficult at times for the average alliance to recruit. So let's say you bring somebody in to fill that missing spot in your battle group, and then on day 1 of Alliance Quest, they die in Tier 1. They lose all their guys. They're just a scrub. Or, maybe even worse, they never go in, right? I've been in alliances before where you bring in this stacked roster, you think, man, this person's going to be a quote-unquote boss slayer. And then they ghost you. They don't respond to any messages online. They don't log into the game. When they do, they don't join Alliance Quest or Alliance War. And so you're forced, after the first week of having that person there, to kick them out. Well, when you kick them out, you reset that spot. And when you reset that spot, the 8-day period of donations doesn't actually gain. It just resets along with it. So let's say you find somebody great and you bring them in that very day. Well, that person still can't donate for the next 8 days. So if you want to run those top tier Alliance Quest maps, that's going to put even more pressure on the other 9 members of the battle group to donate. And if that is a consistent problem, that's going to mean that those 9 people are getting burnt out of more pressure to donate, and maybe that will actually cause them to leave your alliance for one that doesn't have recruiting issues, and that will, of course, further complicate things with your own alliance, and potentially, as was the case this past week for different matters from a couple summoners that reached out to me, that could disband your entire alliance, some of which people have been together for like 3 years plus. So that is a growing fear as well. I am all for discouraging hackers and cheaters. I want this game to be fair, especially for the people that don't cheat. But just like we saw in the gifting event, which really, I think the people who got hurt the most by the gifting badge being taken away was the people that honestly just needed help by being sent maybe some revives or potions from their alliance members when they're trying to clear hard content. Those people were screwed over because of the people that, were trying to have item dumps and paying X amount of money of the dollar to have people send them gifts. The people who really, the average player, I guess what I'm trying to say, was hurt the most. And in some cases, this is going to hurt the average alliance that's struggling to recruit, because every time you strike out on a new recruit, you reset that 8-day policy for donations to actually go into your loyalty and your battle chips and your gold. Your treasury is what I'm saying. So, there are pros and there are cons to this. And I'm sure this is not the last time I could make a video on this, given how much the situation is going to evolve. What I do believe everybody who has reached out to me can agree on, whether or not you're on the pros or cons side or somewhere in the middle of this issue, these costs need to go down. Kabam has said in the past that they don't want this game to run people's lives because they know that, in theory, you have a life outside of this game. I do believe there have been very troubling patterns that have completely contradicted that, from content that requires you to log in every 4 to 6 hours, multiple content, right? From side quests to, of course, the usual Alliance quest and Alliance War grind, since they refuse to up the energy from 5 to 7 or make it half-hour timers. And on top of that, it's just very startling to me that they've just decided to take an issue that's been an issue for years and just kind of try to solve everything in a week, especially before July 4th. There are so many changes so fast that some people are just throwing their hands up in the air and saying, Prof, I'm selling my account, I'm done. Too many changes, too fast, I can't keep up. And that's a shame. I love my YouTube channel. I love the ability to be part of this great community, and I realize that this game could be gone in a day, you know? I'm just not saying a day, literally, but it could be gone as fast as it came. That's the nature of the mobile game developing world. So when you're trying to keep your consumer base happy, you don't want to do so many changes so fast that it jars and disrupts the emotional stability of your consumer base. And I do believe in some cases we've seen that happen from the reactions I've at least been directly messaged with in the past couple of weeks to a month. And that's just a shame. For all the things trending in the right directions, there's still some things trending in the wrong. And I do believe that's why they now have these seasonal calendars where they're going to say, hey, if you're tempted to quit the game, actually just know you get some great rewards, but you're going to have to log in for the next 3 months and not quit. And maybe a 5-star Awakening Gym isn't tempting enough to cause people to leave. And for the people I'm talking about, normally they have their best 5 stars already awakened, and they're actually ranking up 6 stars. So that's not nearly as enticing of a reward to stay as, say, a 6-star Awakening Gym would be. But either way, there are a lot of sides to this issue that I was not expecting. And so thank you for all of you who have sent me feedback, whether it be in YouTube comments or the Line app, etc. If you have additional feedback that you think was not covered in this video, and certainly I do not have time nor want to take the time to cover every side because I don't want this video to be half an hour long, please comment below and let me know. And as always, thank you for watching and supporting my Marvel Contest of Champions YouTube channel.